election is not about age, but it's about character. So you have two choices. You have my husband, Joe, who you all know, who has integrity. He's strong. He's steady. He's a leader. He's smart. He's energetic. Or you have chaos. And my husband's, and you're going to see how smart he is and the experience he has. I believe that Americans are going to choose good over evil.
Okay, so, Madam First Lady, respectfully, it's very bold of you to sit here and talk about good and evil, given your husband has demonized half of the country and continues to do so while prosecuting his political opponent. Now, Joe has been in politics for 48 years, including his presidency. Yet you have nothing to show for. Otherwise, you would have spent your time here talking about his actual accomplishments instead of saying empty words. And finally, I agree. This election is not about age. It is about being able to walk without getting lost. It is about being able to find your way off a stage. It is about being able to go up and down the stairs without falling. It is about being able to finish a sentence, all of which Joe is not able to do on a daily basis. I have seen it. People out there have seen it. Even Whoopi has seen it. I wish you were honest about it. And most importantly, you have seen it. We all know Joe is not well. We all know he's not in control. And listen, I'm not a fan of his, but I would say you should be ashamed of yourself for putting him through this and letting his handlers abuse him like a puppet. Shame on you.
Hey, I like that guy. Live from Times Square, it's That Kevin Show.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. But we don't have that, so we have That Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. The good doctor who made housing calls, Ben Carson, MD. She's telling the truth about men and girls sports, Payton McNabb. Sketch comedy tonight from John B Crist. And a little bit of a view from Damon Imani. And Lainey Wilson in the spotlight. And now, from Times Square, where he never gets carded because he's recognized like Timberlake. Nope, he just looks old. Here's the... Old, huh? Leave it to you to say that it's old. Let David say what he's going to say. He does this all the time. He says the most ridiculous things. I'm supposed to come out and play along. Next thing you know, he's gonna claim that I took a date to a Botox clinic in Times Square or something. It's crazy. Welcome to the weekend. Kevin McCullough, very glad to have you with us. I am so glad to have you here for a couple of reasons. One, we get a presidential debate this coming week, and that's going to be crazy. I mean, it's going to be off the hook. Can you imagine? And there's a couple of reasons why I think that this is going to be kind of fun. But you've got Joe Biden, who, God bless him, he can't stand up for more than 5 minutes. Did you see it? You saw him in Italy. He tried to walk away from the group. And no. The Italian prime minister has to go over and kind of be his mom, pull him back in there. Kind of crazy. And like in the cold open, you got Jill Biden out there trying to convince people that he's just full of energy and normal. There's nothing about this man that looks normal. Did you see when just this last week, he was sitting in the Oval Office, and the reporters began to shout questions at him because when he's sitting, not in the Oval Office, in the West Wing, and when he's in the West Wing, they lob questions and hope that he'll answer. Did you see how he responded? This is actual footage of the actual sitting president of the United States, the leader of the free world, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look. That is nuts. I wouldn't let my grandfather come out and be around the family if he acted like that. If we would make sure that, you know, if it was our great uncle, that he had a nice, safe place to be so that he didn't harm himself. That's the man that wants to convince you that he is ready to lead the world, and he's in an aggravated fashion mocking the press corps who are just doing their job. Their job is to be there and to ask the president questions. That is astoundingly horrid. In the eyes of the world, in the eyes of the American voter, in the eyes of his family. Why are they continuing to do this to him? My colleague, Mike Gallagher, and I got to admit, he's been saying this from the beginning. He is totally convinced that Joe Biden's not going to be on the ticket when they actually get done at the convention and go forward with the election. He's totally convinced it's going to be someone else. How can you let that, what I just played for you, play it again? How can you let that be the representation of America on the international stage? That is frightening. But his policies are equally frightening. And the way he shut down American energy has just been, I feel like it's been a crime against our economy, against our people, against jobs, against everything. Because when he killed the Keystone Pipeline, when he said that American domestic energy is bad and that we need to go to all solar and wind power, which are not renewable, by the way. They like to call them renewable. They're not renewable. Once the wind is blown, it's blown. It won't blow again. There'll be new wind that blows. But there's only additional sources of energy. They're not renewable sources. But I do want you to pay attention to a new sponsor that I have. They're called oilfacts.com. And if you have a stake in this whole energy discussion, if you and your friends sit around and have a glass of wine and you're talking about, you know, things that are important to you, and you say, you know what, I think we should probably not give up on the sources of energy that we have while we develop the new sources of energy that we have, which is the opposite of what this administration, they came in and wanted to kill all of the old energy. And then they found out that they couldn't, so they started importing it from our enemies. Venezuela and Iran and other places, we're getting our oil from places that we don't need to get it from. Because we have more of it than anybody else. And we can make America rich. We can help our allies get resourceful energy at a good price that's going to beat Russia and the mullahs in Iran. And by the way, we're going to do a lot of good for the earth. Oil is not the villain that it's been made out to be, and I want you to go to oilfacts.com and see for yourself exactly what it means. Oilfacts.com, and see for yourself. One last thing I want to touch base on before we go to our first break. We are now up against a 7-day ticking clock. We have 7 days to save 16 human slaves. 7 days to just save one life at a time and get them all out of northern Sudan with Christian Solidarity International. Our goal for this first half of the year was 104 women, and we've taken care of all of them except these final 16. I need your help. 888-342-1010. 888-342-1010. or you can go to bringherhome.org. But we've got these 16 women's names. We have a liberation that is around the corner. We want to effectuate their liberation, and we need you to help us in this endeavor. 888-342-1010. 888-342-1010. By the way, we're going to match every gift that's given tonight. So please be as generous as you can and make that gift right now. 888-342-1010. 888-342-1010. 888-342-1010. Help a woman find freedom. $250 gives her everything she needs to start her life over again. And once she's free, she's going to have her own life, her own food, her own way of supporting herself. And your $250 gift does all that. 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010.
Now, back to that Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Times Square. I am so thrilled to have my next guest. It's been a while since we've spoken with him. He not only served number 45 in office admirably, doing a great job in a what would have been probably a very unaccustomed department for him to head up. And yet, when you look at how he dealt with housing and did such a great job, and even in New York, we felt some of the impact of his experience and his oversight here. But he's really, at heart, a man of science. And he's got a brand new book to talk about. I cannot wait to enjoy this conversation with you and him. Please welcome Dr. Ben. Mr. Secretary, welcome back.
Thank you. So good to be with you again. Appreciate it.
You've got a brand new book out. Go ahead and give us the title and the elevator pitch. I'm going to come back to it in a little bit, but I want to make sure that people know what it is.
Well, it's called The Perilous Fight and Overcoming Our Culture's War on the American Family. And of course, we were born in the crucible of war. Our country was. Our freedoms didn't come easily. And we need to fight for them. We're at a point right now where it's dangerous to fight because you'll get canceled or other things will happen to you. But the fact of the matter is you can't be the land of the free if you're not the home of the brave.
That's well said.
This book really talks about what we have to do in order to preserve the freedoms, not only for ourselves, but for those who are coming after us.
We'll pick up on that conversation in a bit. I want to transition to some other things. I cover a lot of health things on my platform, and I think coming out of COVID the last couple of years and all of the debate that there has been around just how we handled almost every aspect of it, you're one of the most accomplished neurosurgeons to ever walk the planet, and I know that as a physician, you didn't really get to serve in that capacity in Mr. Trump's administration, but I know that it's close to your heart and that you still have very strong opinions about what we need to do. It's my feeling that we've probably sacrificed a lot of faith in our medical institutions, and particularly our national bodies of leaders. Where are we in Ben Carson's opinion in terms of public health?
Well, we did an enormous amount of damage, obviously, during COVID. In terms of people's trust. And it was just totally inexcusable. When things did come up that might work, like hydroxychloroquine, it was quickly crushed. Ivermectin called horse serum. And yet, if we had been in any way objective, we would have saved hundreds of thousands of lives using those. When you look at something like hydroxychloroquine, the reason that the Western African countries have 94% less COVID than we did is because they take it as an anti-malarial. The reason that Southern India had almost none is because they use ivermectin liberally. But we had a silly rule that said you cannot get an EUA, an emergency use authorization, for a drug or an inoculation unless there's no other viable treatment. So you had to crush all other viable treatments and denigrate them in order to get the EUA, which is completely ridiculous. It should be just the opposite. When you have a pandemic going on, you should go down every possible avenue that you have rather than trying to channel everything into one area. So it's going to take a long time. You know, you have people saying natural immunity is only good for 2 or 3 weeks. Natural immunity is good for years. We've known that for a very long time. We've known that since the days of smallpox in the Civil War. All of a sudden, we don't know it anymore. You know, those kinds of things really cost us dearly as a society, and it's going to take a good little while before people trust once again in our public health system.
I don't know if we have time because it seems as though the Chinese are intent on continuing exploration around novel viruses. They want to play with these things that use gain of function. There seems to be a lot of desire to experiment and to try to, I don't know, push the Frankenstein envelope as best as I can tell. But Dr. Carson, when it comes to being ready if another one of these bugs took hold, what's your assessment of where we're at?
Well, we're certainly not going to be ready with the current administration, that's for sure, because no one seems to like to ever take responsibility. They just keep passing the buck to everybody else. Let's hope if there's a different administration soon that they will recognize that we have to deal with the facts, not deal with what's politically expedient, but what are the facts, because the safety of the people is the primary thing. That's one of the real purposes of the government, not to gain political power.
We're speaking with Dr. Ben Carson, who served the Trump administration in the housing department and housing secretary and did a great job. I'm curious, I'm going to go off the health topic for a second. What was your favorite experience serving in that capacity?
Probably getting the finances under control. When I came there, it was a total mess. They had not had an audit for 8 years. It's required that every federal agency have an audit once a year. You couldn't do an audit because there were so many material defects. So getting that under control was a great accomplishment, and it allowed us to get a lot of other things done. And it went from the worst run agency to the best run agency.
I'm hesitant to ask if you have any insight on how it's running since you've left.
So a lot of the things that we started are still in place, but are not being pursued vigorously. Let's put it that way.
Well, I know that, you know, it was probably not an easy assignment, especially for someone who came from the medical field. But do you feel like your background in science gave you an advantage in any way in that position?
Well, it does in the sense that you learn to make decisions based on facts, based on what the real evidence shows as opposed to on emotion. And the thing that really helped me was having grown up in dire poverty and seeing the way people formulate their ideals. And I was very hopeful that I would get a lot of support in trying to make people self-sufficient, get them out of poverty. I was a little surprised to find that on the Hill, on the other side of the aisle, there were a lot of people who really didn't want to get people out of poverty and want them to be self-sufficient.
Was that the most jarring thing about entering the political arena for you, was just what manipulation is done with the masses by those that are elected?
Yeah. Well, you know, I knew it was a swamp going into it, but I discovered it was actually a cesspool. It's worse than a swamp. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be working hard to reverse it, because if we don't, we got a real problem.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that we're doing at American Cornerstone Institute, which I head up now, is Executive Branch for America, teaching particularly young people, college-age people, how the government actually works so that if they get involved, they can hit the ground running, because most people take a year to get out of the headlights.
Well, and as you can well see, that's a lot of wasted downtime.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Kevin McCullough.
And we're back from Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. My very special guest is the soft-spoken Dr. Ben Carson. The Perilous Fight, Overcoming Our Culture's War on the American Family is the book, and it's his brand new work. Dr. Carson, back to public health for a couple of questions. What lessons do you think the American people took away from COVID? We saw Dr. Fauci and Dr. Rand Paul go at it pretty hard in the Congress on a couple of occasions. But I think one of the things that I came away from watching those interactions saying to myself was, well, why do we have someone like a Dr. Fauci in a position that's almost untouchable without accountability? Our government's built on, checks and balances. And in science, you're held in checks and balances by, what the science says, where it says to go, the conclusions it points you to. And yet in a public office like that, highest paid government employee we had, there was almost no accountability on him at all, to the degree that you could correct any behavior.
Well, there was very bad behavior in that they tried to go after people who disagreed with them, who were scientists and in the medical field. And that was a huge problem. And I hope one of the lessons learned was learned by people in the medical community, not to be sheeple, not to allow yourself to be manipulated and go against what you know is true, what you've learned for years and years, just in order for somebody won't cancel you. You can't be the land of the free if you're not the home of the brave.
Yeah.
And that goes for all of us. We have to stand up for what we know is right.
Well, it's one of those things that when people ask me about what bothered me about that season the worst, and I remember, at least here in New York, Governor Cuomo kind of putting a stop to people talking to their doctors and saying you can only go get therapeutics from the emergency room or from the pharmacy. That's the only place you could get the vaccines, the only place you could get the therapeutics. And the separating people from their actual personal physicians, to me, is a violation that's almost sacred. I mean, the Hippocratic Oath is first do no harm, and right. You're separating people from the people that know their medical history the most.
And then separating people from their families, confining people to interior spaces when we should have been getting them outside. I mean, just stupid stuff, dumb stuff that had no basis in fact. That was the problem. And we need to have a system of checks and balances in public health at the NIH, at the CDC. There needs to be a check on those organizations, because what's happening now is the World Health Organization is trying to incorporate all the different nations under their umbrella. And if we continue down that road, we'll sacrifice all the freedoms that we have eventually.
Yeah, China sold us out for sure in the last pandemic. So I know it's fictional at this point and nobody's won anything at this point, but I kind of foresee President Trump being reelected, and you served him so honorably and so well. If he called and said, "Hey, Ben, not transportation this time, or not housing this time. What if we put you over at Health and Human Services?" Would you be up for a challenge of that proportion?
I will do everything I can to help save our country from inside the administration or outside the administration. No question about it. That's
good music to my ears. Let's turn to your book, The Perilous Fight: Overcoming Our Culture's War on the American Family. You've been so eloquent in speaking on so many different areas of interest to you. The American family, if anybody bothers to study the statistics, is without question linked, or in most cases unlinked, to our biggest worries about crime, our biggest concerns about African American men committing crime against almost always other African American men. There are so many things that the family touches on in terms of sociology and economy and generational values and generational worth. You're talking about leaving a legacy for your family. If you don't have a family, there's no legacy left. What is it about this topic that said you had to write this book at this time?
Knowing that a lot of people didn't realize that we actually have enemies who are trying to overcome us, who are trying to fundamentally change us into something else. They can't do it militarily, but they can do it from within. And looking within, you look for the basic foundational element of the strength of a society. That is the family.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
We're back with Dr. Ben Carson. A very big treat to have him with us at the Kevin McCullough microphone. And Dr. Carson, you were just saying that this fight is taking on proportions that some people don't even realize it's because it's being done so subtly against us.
Well, they hadn't realized what's going on, but if you look at the congressional record from January the 10th, 1963, we're talking over 60 years ago. Congressman Herlong from Florida delineated the 45 goals of communism in America. Things like taking over the school systems and the teacher unions and Hollywood and the news media in order to reform people's thinking. Things like making sexual perversion normal, natural, and healthy are the words they use. Removing God, not only from the schools, but from everything, and going into the churches and changing the real gospel to social gospel. I mean, it's pretty awesome what they've been able to accomplish.
It's played out to a T, it looks like.
Yeah. And so I suggest, obviously, many things that can be done and that must be done to protect ourselves and to protect our children. I give the example with the children of this transgenderism. Well, think about the way that the brain develops. It starts developing from the moment of conception, millions of neurons a day. By the time a baby is born, billions of neurons a day. That's why a newborn baby sleeps 20 to 22 hours a day. That brain continues to develop into your mid to late 20s. So can you imagine a 12-year-old who has an immature brain and trying to confuse them about things like gender? That's why God gave them parents, to protect them from people who would take advantage of their vulnerability.
Well, it is one of those things where it has come on with such ferocity in the last 3.5 years. I never would have thought that we would have had this much damage done this fast, but it's been a full court press. It's been Marxism in fiscal policy. It's been this that you were just describing in educational policy. I mean, President Biden came in and within the first week blackmailed all public schools and said, if you don't push the gender ideology stuff, we're going to take away kids' breakfasts and lunches for your poor students. I mean, Dr. Carson, when you think about just that action alone, that's pretty sinister.
It's massive, and it's according to those who want to fundamentally change our nation. They know that they have to change our values in order to do that. What is the thing that made America so strong? It was that can-do attitude. It was the togetherness. If it was harvest time and one of our neighbors broke his leg, everybody else harvested his crop. They didn't ask him whether he was a Democrat or Republican. They didn't ask him what religion was. We were Americans. We were colleagues and friends. And now we've allowed ourselves to be manipulated and wedges driven in between us based on race, age, income, gender, political philosophy, religion, and it's destroying us. And I have a little acronym. It's called WANE. We are not enemies. We've let division wax for a long time. It's time to let it wane now. and move back to what we were once before.
I don't like asking this question, but I feel like I need to. The reason I don't like asking this question is because I don't think any group of people are monolithic. But the discussion of race and race-based involvement in government and politics is always a hot topic. And what I'm watching by way of current polling seems to indicate that President Trump is going to do quite well with specifically African-American men, but even African-Americans as a whole, maybe an all-time record. He's polling somewhere around 28% in the black community right now. I think that there are a lot of things that go into this. I think an increasing black middle class. I think a lot of people kind of waking up to the reality that whatever Joe Biden promised was going to happen didn't happen. But I guess what I'd like to know is, do you think that some of this movement, because Trump only got 12% in 2020, and that was the most that any modern era Republican had gotten in terms of the black vote, do you think that this is a generational shift or an election cycle shift that we run the risk of reverting back to? Or do you think that there is real move afoot of people saying, I'm going to investigate and I'm going to vote according to what I actually believe and not according to what some of these race baiters have been telling me I need to do for these many years?
I think it's a movement that is being manifested in a group that's easy to identify, but is occurring across all demographics. People are seeing that it's more difficult to fill your car up and pay your bills, your utility bills, and buy food and have dreams. And that's going across all demographics. I don't think blacks and Hispanics are any different than anyone else. They recognize that they were much better off under the Trump administration. They realize that this administration is selling them down the road and just using them. And I think they're reacting to that. And I think it's going to be transformational. It's not just going to be in this election. And that's good, because everybody should be fighting for the votes. No one should be taking them for granted.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. And I think that, this isn't the legal night, so we're not talking about legal issues, but, I think that people of every stripe look at what the Alvin Bragg prosecution has tried in New York and others. And I think that they're looking at him going, if they can do that against a former president and a man who's pretty wealthy and can do pretty much whatever he would prefer to do in life, what could they do to me?
Right. I think people are smart enough to recognize that if we allow that to succeed, this is no longer America for any of us. And the people are a lot smarter than the left gives them credit for.
No, I think you're right. The book is called The Fight, Overcoming Our Culture's War on the American Family. It is none other than Dr. Ben Carson, co-written with his lovely bride, Candy. And sorry she couldn't join us tonight, Dr. Carson, but please give her our greetings and our best as well. And please come back and see us again here at That Kevin Show.
Thank you for being a patriot.
You got it. Coming right back from Times Square. So glad to have you with us. Don't go away.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Serving it up with a no-drink minimum. It's That Kevin Show.
When she was last with us, it was before she had been named Artist of the Year by the Academy of Country Music and the Country Music Awards, and she has gone on to be Artist of the Year. Here is the talented and oft-guested New Music Spotlight artist, Lainey Wilson.
I've been dreaming, I've been driving, trying to stay between the lines of who I am and who I used to be. I've been living, I've been losing, walking miles in different shoes and finding out I can't run from me. And if I ever get a little too far, I remember where I left my heart. Can't take the home out of Oklahoma. It's where my soul was born to be. No matter where I'm going, I'm a wild wind blowing, just a rolling like a tumbleweed. Can't take the home out of Oklahoma, so you can't take it out of me. The sky is crying, mama's calling, paint is peeling, grass is talling. I'm still feeling like I don't belong. Water tower, graffiti faded. Am I older or just jaded? Everything and nothing changed at all. Can't take the home out of Oklahoma. It's where my soul was born to be. No matter where I'm going, I'm a wild wind blowing, just a rolling like a tumbleweed. Can't take the home out of Oklahoma, so you can't take it out of me. If I ever get a little too far, I remember where I left my heart. Can't take the home out of Oklahoma. It's where my soul was born to be. No matter where I'm going, I'm a wild wind blowing, just a rolling like a tumbleweed. Can't take the home out of Oklahoma, so you can't take it out of me. Can't take it out of me.
From the upcoming sequel to Twister, another country artist lending their work to that. Lainey Wilson, her newest.
Hey, get the soundtrack. Search hashtag New Music Spotlight on Spotify or Apple Music.
Such a looksis, too, you know. Besides the fact, first of all, he can't believe that a beautiful girl like that would not be on his team.
He is the smallest man who ever lived. He thinks the only way to pay a woman a compliment is to repeatedly compliment her. Though Taylor Swift has never been told she's pretty before, and like that just might bring her around to his side. It just shows how his brain works.
Okay, Alicia, Joy, the things that you're saying are not really a Trump thing. Look, most men compliment women by complimenting their look. You are the ones thinking we care about your accomplishments and what you do, but we really don't. I mean, after all of you put on makeup when you go out or when you show up here. So you are the ones prioritizing your look and your beauty every single day. Unless you're Whoopi or Joy, of course. Because I'll look at you, I'll see you, and I would say, even with makeup on, you don't look good, to be honest with you. I hope you're not insulted. I would never, under any circumstances, compliment your look. Now, I'm honest when I say it. I hope, again, you're not insulted.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him from as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. But we don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. To come. She's telling the truth about men being in girls' sports. Payton McNabb. Sketch comedy on the way from John B Crist, and with a view from Damon Imani. And in the spotlight, the return of Lainey Wilson. And now, from Times Square, where it's rumored that he once took a second date to the 42nd Street Botox Clinic. Here's the...
I didn't do that, but it is funny, and I read about it on Overheard New York over the week, and I wonder if that's what Fani Willis is trying to keep from uncovering. Trump's lawyers are saying that she's about to be in a much bigger world of deep hurt, and like it wouldn't be enough to have like promised your staff you'd never violate certain boundaries, and then you violated them all over the place just to have a boyfriend take state funds to go do fun things with. Oh, anyway. All right, it's time. We got to check that news. Let's do it. Here we go. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough. Next week's first presidential debate is losing some promise as RFK Jr. has officially been excluded from the contest. CNN, the only network qualified to host the debate once the rule was set for no audience, announced that RFK Jr. had not met the requirement to be included. He was told that even though his campaign had met the written requirement rules. So what requirement had he failed to meet? When asked specifically, the rule maker responded, in international news, experts are remarking after the summit of two powers of the new axis of evil, North Korea and Russia, as to what an unhealthy leader Kim Jong-un is said to have appeared as. I don't know about Kim Jong-un, but you know which leader these same experts claim to appear as completely healthy? In state news, Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders has announced an effort to do completely away with her state's income tax, citing the heavy burden her residents already face. Meanwhile, Gavin Newsom, seen here celebrating his success at having run over his neighbor's dog, is said to be thrilled that a state judge in his state has given him limitless ability to raise taxes on his residents. Assignment Desk Weekend has learned that a large number of U-Hauls have now been rented in California, with Arkansas being their drop-off destination. And finally, tonight, Assignment Desk Weekend has a serious question to ask the watching public. It is being reported that the former failed presidential candidate, Mike Bloomberg, is said to have this week committed to donating $20 million to the Biden re-election effort. Now, the irony is rich here, of course, because even when he spent $50 million on his own maniacal candidacy, he lost badly. He won a group of islands. That was it. He got one delegate at the convention for $50 million. But Assignment Desk Weekend has decided we would like to ask the public the following question. Which is worse, openly throwing your money away or giving it to a man whose campaign, strategy, mantra, and motto has become... For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough.
Fellas, what's up? Y'all doing good? Yeah, hey, I have season tickets for Nashville SC. I actually can't go. I want to see if you guys wanted to go on Saturday to the game. I can't use the tickets.
I could probably do that.
Yeah,
that would work great. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll. You want me I'll send you the link to the tickets and y'all have fun.
Sweet.
It's Saturdays is Pride night at the, so.
Great.
Does that matter to you?
You don't want to go now?
No, no, that's what I mean, not wanting to, no, you're, okay. You're mixing up my words a little bit here, because it's not like I was gonna go and then I found out it was Pride night and I decided not to go. It's just that.
Sounds like you just don't want to go because it's Pride night.
Between us, I didn't even know it was Pride night until like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, and then you tried to sell the tickets when you found out.
No, I mean, I just figured you guys would get it. Not you got, no, not like.
You know he told me June's his least favorite month?
Yeah, I heard him say that.
No, that's because of the humidity. It gets so hot in the South. It's good, my hair. They're playing the Chicago Fire, honestly, and they're last in the division. And I was like, you know what, that's not a game I want to go to.
Oh, so if they were good, then you would be willing to go to the game.
No, okay, all right. You know what, I feel like we're getting confused here. I tell you what, let's forget this conversation happened. I'll just hop on StubHub. I'll list them there, no problem.
For more or less than you paid for them.
I would list them for less. I'm not trying to.
For less?
No, more. Yeah, you're right. I would list them for more because it's the game and it's also the added.
You can profit off Pride.
Like a corporation.
No, I just figured it was it's a very exclusive, inclusive event.
You know what? I did notice that there are some rainbow koozies in the break room, and there's only one left, untouched.
Just listen.
You'd rather drink a warm Coke than support Pride?
I'm just not a koozie guy.
How about this? We'll put the tickets on the company Slack, just see if anybody wants them.
2 tickets for Nashville SC versus Chicago Fire, Saturday, any takers, ?
Perfect. That works out great.
Great.
John gave them to us because it's Pride night and he doesn't want to go.
No, okay, no, all right.
Uncomfortable.
You're acting, it doesn't matter to me, is what I'm saying.
Update, John says Pride night doesn't matter to him, !
No, sorry. It does matter. Pride night, it matters to me a lot. If all lives matter. Hold on. Not in an all lives, not in like the slogan type of way. It's just, I'm saying,
Andy got back to us. He said, can we have your tickets for next Saturday's game against Toronto?
Toronto? That's bobblehead night. I never miss that. No.
The funny man that is John Crist tonight on That Kevin Show. Had a brain cramp, forgot where I was for half a second. Hey, we're so glad that you're with us, but I do want to stress the importance. We are under the final week of our opportunity to liberate 104 slaves from Sudan. And thanks to you, 88 of them have been liberated. But because we still are some 12 away from getting that done, I want to make sure that we don't leave them behind. And if you've been hearing me advocate for this over the last few weeks, I really want to stress it's very important. We get these final 14 liberated, and it's going to change their lives. But we've got to act now. 888-342-1010. 888-342-1010. Please make a call and make it right now.
That Kevin. From New York, it's That Kevin Show.
See, I knew it.
Come on, Kev. What's a few classified documents between friends?
I told you all the time. I knew it. I knew he had some too.
Here he is. That Kevin. Kevin McCullough.
Very glad to have you with us. Welcome back to Times Square. My next guest has never been on That Kevin Show. I don't even know if she's been to Times Square, but she has certainly been the subject of a story that she never wanted to be. And we're going to find out more about that. She is now an advocate for the Independent Women's Forum, championing integrity in women's sports and the fact that women should be the ones that play them. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Payton McNabb. Hello, Payton.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You got it. We're catching you on the road because you're in between speaking engagements for IWF, and you're busy this year crisscrossing the country telling your story. People may have known about the incident that occurred that caused you to be kind of thrust into the limelight, but for people that don't, take us back to that fateful day on the volleyball court.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going into my senior year. I dedicated my whole life to sports. So I was a 3-sport athlete, participating in volleyball, basketball, and softball. So sports were a big part of me and everything that I did. I devoted my whole life to it. So I was so excited to go into my senior year. It was bittersweet, but I was looking forward to it. And then I quickly ran into my last volleyball game ever. And that day, that has changed my life forever. I went into that game knowing that there was a boy on the team, but we weren't sure what to do about it. We didn't know if we, could just walk off. We didn't know what we could do yet. It wasn't really talked about at the time. This was almost 2 years ago. And we went into the game. We had a younger team, and they were literally shaking because they were so scared to play against this boy. And we were scared too, but as one of the leaders on the team, I had to act like, we could do it. We just have to try our best. And then I got hit so hard by a spike by that boy that I was knocked unconscious, lying in a fencing position for about 30 seconds while my coaches and athletic director rushed on the court to see if I was okay and were trying to push my arms and legs down. They kept coming back up because that's how your brain reacts to, or your body reacts to a brain injury. So yeah, that quickly became my last game, volleyball game ever of my career, and it was really unfortunate.
So just for the people that are listening, I just want to make sure that we're clear that you were in high school, you were going to play at a high school level game, and the opposing team had not just some boy, but a very skilled, very powerful, very strong boy that was, in essence, pretending to be a girl to play on the girls' team. But, I mean, I saw the pictures. He didn't look particularly female. But it was just one of these things where he identified, so the district and the schools and everybody that was involved was just going to let him play, saying that he identified as a girl that day. And it ended up having a rather negative impact on you medically. Now, at the moment, that very moment, you didn't really realize it, but over the next couple of weeks, what did you find out?
Yeah, so luckily that was the only game that my parents didn't go to. I'm not sure what would have happened, but they took me to the emergency room as soon as they could. And then my primary doctor immediately referred me to a neurologist where they told me that I had a concussion, a brain bleed, and permanent whiplash. A lot of things followed that. I had partial paralysis on my right side, vision impairment, memory loss, and a lot of other things that follow. My body is still in shock this day. Again, it's almost been 2 years, and I'm still having very frequent doctor's appointments.
So the doctors say you'll never be the same. You obviously could begin to tell that things were different. You had partial paralysis on one side of your body. Did this immediately end your sports career? Have you been unable to play or participate in anything since?
Well, I never got to play volleyball again, and then I went into my basketball season. My parents were kind of using it as a physical therapy because they were also really worried about my mental health because I became really depressed that all of my sports and basically my whole year just come to an end as soon as it began. So that was kind of like a physical therapy for me. My coach was really good, watching me every move, only letting me do certain things. And then I tried to play softball, but again, I just couldn't perform the way I had in the past, and that really hurt my future career. I had dreams of going and playing in college. When you say you couldn't
perform, you're talking about eye-hand coordination. You're talking about all the things that you need to be able to succeed. I'm just curious, back in the moment of the accident, the team that had the biological male on it, did that player, did that coach, did anybody from that side come and apologize or offer condolences or anything? I mean, was there any type of outreach?
No, they didn't apologize at all. They actually kept the boy in the game for the remainder of the game, left him in there. And then they hadn't said one thing to me other than when I spoke out for the first time a little over a year ago. The boy did reach out to me, and he messaged me on Instagram, and it was just some hateful remark with no remorse. They're not sorry because they were winning, because they wouldn't have won without him.
Well, okay. I'm a dad. I've got 3 kids. One of them's a daughter. I understand the competitive nature. I understand wanting to win. But to know that he had caused you medical damage to your nerves and to your life, to respond in just pure hate. I mean, that's beyond the pale. And this is the problem with this entire issue. People that have for whatever reason, they thought that the compassionate thing to do was to reach out and to invite the boys to be on the girls' teams. You notice it never goes the other way. There's never girls trying to get on the boys' teams. This is only boys that usually cannot perform up to the standard of the boys that they would normally be competing with, trying to be dominant in the girls' arena. And as someone who did some coaching back in my younger adulthood, and I coached men and women at different levels of basketball, I knew the differences distinctly. And that was one of the reasons why for, practice and some other things, sometimes we would go and get intramural guys to come and scrimmage with the girls, because there was a degree of faster speed, stronger ability, et cetera, that the girls would compete against. But we couldn't do that all the time because it would demoralize them. If we did it a little bit, we could get them to work on speed and agility and other things. And we put a lot of rules on the boys, when it came to throwing elbows and rebounding and everything else. There was none of that allowed to endanger the girls in those practice settings. And so basically this boy ends your athletic life and shows no remorse for it. When we come back, I want you to tell us what you're doing now and how your message is being received in different places as you're able to make it. And is there anything going forward on the legislative front? I know that you were at the assembly not long ago. I saw some pictures online of you and Riley Gaines. But what are your next goals? We'll talk about all that when we come back. Payton McNabb is my very special guest, and you can find out more about her story at Independent Women's Forum. That's IWF.org. Coming right back.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
All right, for just another 6 minutes or so, we have Payton McNabb still with us. And Payton, as I was listening to your story in the last segment, I just, I'm a dad that really loves my daughter. And this is the incident that you've been through, the way that Riley Gaines and others have lost flat out opportunities because of being robbed by them by stronger and faster biological men, is just wrong. This is a moral issue, and it's just a wrong thing to do, to put biological men into women's sports. But I'm curious, now that you've somewhat recovered, but you're still dealing with the after effects of the incident, and I don't call it an accident. This was entirely avoidable. That team never should have had a biological male playing on it. But now that you're a couple of years down the road, do you sense that what you're doing is important in terms of speaking out and drawing attention to this issue?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a big point of this bus tour that we're on, the Our Bodies, Our Sports bus tour. It's because it's really getting the word out there. A lot of people don't even know this is happening. And this is just a really good way to keep speaking out, keep standing up for what's right, and keep spreading the word. And courage begets courage, and more people will start speaking out if more people keep pushing each other and getting the word out there. So that's really the whole point. We're just trying to make everything right and stop all this crazy stuff.
Insanity. Well, and I want to be very clear. I don't want people to think that you're saying things that you're not saying. You're not saying that you don't have compassion for people that have gender dysphoria or anything else. But when it comes to competing in sports, biological men should compete against biological men, and biological women should compete against biological women. That does not seem to me to be a very hard concept to get across.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, these are basic truths that we're having to stand up and fight for. And yeah, like you said, I mean, this is an anti-anyone issue. This is a pro-woman, and that's our whole point in this. We're not saying that no one can play sports. You can play sports, just play in your respective category, and that will protect a lot of women.
Yeah. As you've been out on the road with the bus tour and going different places, what are people telling you when you've told your story and you've had a chance to speak up? Are there others that are reaching out saying, I've experienced something similar and I'm so glad you're doing it?
Yeah, I've had some of that. There's been a lot of girls that are dealing with this. We're seeing more stories every day. So that just shows itself. But there are a lot of people behind the scenes that do reach out, that they're afraid to speak up, but they thank you for all you're doing. And there's really nothing to be afraid of. That's what we all try to tell them, because what are they going to do? Like, I don't understand why people would be afraid, because this is the truth. And if you're fighting for what's right, then it shouldn't matter what anyone else thinks.
Well, it seems to me that in the 1920s, when the suffragettes were marching, and they were marching for an equal opportunity to own a business or to vote or to do those types of key things, that we really began to understand that women deserve every one of the key rights that men do. In the 1960s, we kind of started saying that men and women were interchangeable, and I'm not as down with that message, because that's what brought us to this place, that there's no difference between the two. But the 1920s feminists, they saw distinctly that men and women were different, and that they both were equal in the eyes of the law, and they deserved that. If the women's groups aren't speaking up now, and they're not, outside of Independent Women's Forum and a handful of like faith-based groups, there is no major national pro-women's group that is taking this on. And I feel like we are going to tell my daughter and her daughters and the daughters that come after that to just shut up and sit down if we don't speak up now. Like they're having their opportunities literally stolen from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you always hear, where are the feminists? And, I don't see myself as a feminist, but I do think that I am pro-woman. I believe in biblical femininity, and, like you said, there's only a handful of people, and I applaud Independent Women's Forum for all they do, because they truly are on the front lines and fighting for this every day. And it's because of people like them why there's more people standing up and speaking out, and we just got to keep going.
Well, at this microphone and at this camera, we are not going to stop screaming the truth at every opportunity, and you coming on to tell your story helps me do that better. I understand I'm a flawed messenger. As a man, I'm not going to face the types of discrimination and pain that you guys are, but I am an advocate. I'm in your corner, and I'm fighting hard. All right, Payton McNabb, thank you for being with us. Kevin McCullough coming right back from Times Square. Don't turn that dial.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York, That Kevin.
And welcome
Kevin
back to
McCullough.
Times Square. Kevin McCullough, very glad to have you with us on That Kevin Show, and we would greatly appreciate it if you would go and find everything related to the show at thatkevinshow.com, thatkevinshow.com. Send your emails to thatkevinshow@gmail.com, thatkevinshow@gmail.com, and that's where you can go and register for your chance to win our dandy little mugs that we're giving away each week, and I hope that you'll register for that. Just put in the subject line, mug, and then send us your address and the preference of the mug that you'd like, the black one with the white logo or the white one with the black logo, and we'll get you registered for that. We're giving a mug away every weekend through the end of the year. So get your coffee and a sharp, dandy little new That Kevin Show mug. I want to say thank you to the beginning of our partnership with oilfacts.com. Did you know that oil, coal, natural gas, these things that are commonly referred to as fossil fuels, are not climate villains? If you listen to the legacy media over the last number of years, they will tell you that these things are terrible, that they're ruining our planet, they're ruining people's lives, they're ruining the earth, they're ruining our future, and just none of that's true. In fact, I want to put some facts in front of you. Did you know that tonight, 8 billion people will eat dinner because fossil fuels provided the irrigation, the refrigeration, and the transportation for that food to get to them? They literally saved lives. In fact, since fossil fuel discovery and how to use it for energy has been discovered, and since the globe has been warming, fossil fuels have saved billions of lives in the process. Think about just the issue of climate where you live. You have really cold parts of the year, you have really hot parts of the year. People die in extreme weather. Fossil fuels have allowed us to even out that living climate so that they can live longer. And we've saved billions of lives through that. Anyway, there's a lot of facts about these things that the other side is not going to let you know about. They're going to tell you that we need to pull up more rare earth minerals and that we need to build more electric cars and that we need to have more electric charging stations. But we're still using more fossil fuels than ever, and there's still more that we can use without any pain to the earth or our atmosphere. But you're not going to hear these facts anywhere else. So do me a favor. Go to oilfacts.com and check them out for yourself. Read for yourself. Get information for yourself. Arm yourself with the information to know that oil, in fact, does not hurt the environment, but in fact has saved billions of people's lives and will continue to as long as we're using it. And we're using it increasingly in climate-friendly ways that make a difference. Oilfacts.com is brought to you by Prairie Operating Group. They are dedicated to safe and responsible production of American energy. And when it comes to this election, that's going to be a major issue that's on the ballot. Will we use American energy to power our way forward and to recover the way we need to? If we don't, we're going to be in real trouble. So it's a big, big issue. Oilfacts.com. Go check it out. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about tonight, and it is serious, is that a couple of months ago, we started down a journey to try to rescue 104 Sudanese women who had been taken captive and were made slaves by the northern Sudanese during the Sudanese Civil War. Thus far, we have effected the liberation of 88 of those 104. That means that we have, 16 left to save, and we hope to effect that liberation at the end of this month, which means we only have about a week left to be able to do this. 18 slaves that will forever be free, be reunited with their families in South Sudan, be liberated from the abuse that they've taken at the hands of cruel slave masters for the last number of years, and be given a permanent start to a new life that is theirs to have. It costs us $250 to start that life for them. Once their liberation has been effected, once they are back to the safety of the Christian Solidarity International recovery camp, where they will stop first on their way home, where they will be given medical attention and counseling and other things that they will need because they've lived very hard lives. They've been called names that no human being should be called. They've been raped. They've been ritualistically abused. They've been mistreated in ways that slaves are. But in giving them their liberation, you're giving them that new life. And the $250 will supply everything they need to start that life over again. It will give them a complete year's worth of food, grain called sorghum that is very useful in the Sudan environment. They'll have enough of that to last them a full year, and they'll be given seed to plant another year's worth of sorghum that will help them in coming years. They'll also be given utensils to fish and clean and cook with, to maybe hunt, maybe garden with as well. Those utensils will be part of that bag of hope. They'll be given tarps and blankets and bedding so that they can have a safe and restful place to put their head every night, one that is their own, one that does not belong to a slave master. They will also be given, and this is kind of my favorite part of the whole package, a she-goat individually that will be able to have more goats and give them a micro enterprise way of supporting themselves. They'll be able to sell milk and cheese. They'll be able to have more kid goats, sell those, and create a living for them and their children. This is an incredible start and lease on life. And all of that gets done for $250, and a good deal more, by the way, that we don't have time to go into. But that is just the tip of the iceberg, and we give them all of that for the $250 gift. Friends, I need 18 of you. I need 18 of you to say, I'm not going to let these ladies suffer 1 minute longer. We have 7 days to rescue. 16. We have 7 days to rescue the final 16. Will you help us right now? 888-342-1010 is the number to call, 888-342-1010. You can also go online and just give a gift at bringherhome.org, bringherhome.org. My listeners and viewers for the last 10 years have now liberated close to 4,500 human slaves through the work of Christian Solidarity International. And we don't want it to stop. We don't want it to stop until the remaining 30,000 or so are all liberated. But this spring, this summer, right now, we have a chance to liberate an additional 104. We're 16 away from having that number met. Will you help us? Will you take on one at $250? There are those of you that are listening tonight that could probably do more than that. My family this month liberated 4. Would you match our effort? Could you match our effort right now? 888-342-1010 or bringherhome.org. 888-342-1010 or bringherhome.org.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin.
There she is, Lainey Wilson, the Country Artist of the Year for 2023. Her newest, Hang Tight Honey. Actually, I guess the single from the Twister movie is her newest, but this is the newest off of her own albums, not a soundtrack album. Anyway, both songs great. Hope you enjoyed them, and Lainey will be back with us, I'm sure, towards the end of the year. She'll probably have at least one song in the running for Song of the Year. New Music Spotlight just a feature every week here on That Kevin Show. And we hope you'll be back with us next week when we do it all over again. We'll see you then.